Okay, well, talking about the other side of tools rather than just tools for measuring, for seeding metrics, but tools for implementation. Uh, Press releases, for instance. With some clients, press releases are a prominent channel. Uh, are they really important for visibility, or can, say, social media provide the same level of visibility that a press release might?
So I'm not a fan of releases. And the reason I'm not a fan is because they're not used as a tool, as a something to provide more information. They're used to spam. I can't even tell you how many emails I get in a day with somebody's news release attached to an email or copied into the body of the email that has nothing to do with anything that we write. And every time I get one, I'm like, PR people, stop it! And I'm a PR person, so what we see is that people misuse the tool versus using it using it to provide additional information after you've had a conversation with a journalist or a blogger. So I'll attack this from two perspectives. The first is, I was speaking to a group about a month ago, and one of the attendees raised his hand and he said, one of our strategies is to write a news release twice a week, every couple of days, that we then distribute online so that it helps our search engine ranking. And at about the beginning of August, and apparently it works really well.
Not
at the
anymore.
Beginning of August, Google came out, as you know, and said, no more. So when he told me that, I kind of cringed and I said, I hate to tell you this, but it's not going to work anymore. So but that's what you find is that PR professionals use that tool and distribute it online, both for the search engine rankings and for quote-unquote results. Because what they can then do is go to their clients or to their executives and say, well, look at this. Bloomberg picked it up, and Yahoo picked it up, and the Wall Street Journal picked it up, and USA Today picked it up. But what they're not saying is it's like on page 562 and nobody sees it. But the executive sees that list of really impressive media and goes, well, wow, this is really working. So I think there's there's a lot of misinformation about it, and we're not educating the people who are not communication professionals on how this should be working.
There's a definite disconnect. Definite.
Oh, yeah, huge. And we've had clients say, well, why don't you distribute this online so we can get all these results? And we're like, no, those aren't results.
There's no value there. Plus, as you say, the abuse has been tremendous. People, oh my God, my receptionist washed the coffee cups today. Let's put out a news release.
I didn't use that as an example.
New curtains.
Yeah.
It gets ridiculous sometimes.
Yeah, no, and coming from a marketing background where traditional marketing, you did use press releases, not so much for Google, but to share with journalists. I mean,
right.
That was what they were used for.
Right.
But once I got involved in the SEO world, we had a lot of clients, and back in the day, 7-8 years ago, we did that. We didn't write a press release every 2 weeks, but we did use them as part of, a campaign when and how it made sense. But we've also had people come to us and say, hey, look, we want a press release once a week, and we want it sent to, 50 press release sites, and we don't care if it's free or paid because, yes, Google did look at those signals as positive feedback.
Once upon a time, yeah.
Right. Which brings me to my next question. I love the way I segue myself in. So how important is SEO in your world? How much value are you giving it today? Not what you've done in the past, but today, knowing how Google has updated, changed Hummingbird, Panda, Penguin, etc.
All the animals that we can think of. I think it's really important, and I think what the industry as a whole is missing is that they don't think it's important and don't understand it. Now, can I go in and, do pay-per-click advertising or create really compelling meta descriptions or, do the back-end kinds of things? No, I can't. but can I create really great content that people want to share and that people comment on? Yeah, I can do that. But I also have to understand what anchor text means and what keywords mean and how to create that content, but also use keywords that are compelling enough to get people onto the site, from an organic search. So from an industry perspective, I 100% believe PR professionals have to understand how organic search works. Have to. And I don't think everybody does. It's one of those black magic things that we all kind of get scared about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because it's still, just the other day I had a meeting with clients, and this is in San Francisco. We're not talking Mississippi. This is San Francisco, major city, huge startup. Silicon Valley's in our backyard.
Right.
Asking, does SEO really work? Or, is SEO black hat? And, direct, this is an agency. So yeah, the misconception is still around, and I think communication is key, explaining to people. But you don't want to give too much away.
Sure,
so,
of course.
Yeah. Doc, we have a question from the audience. Do you want to take that, or?
Yeah, we've got one from our G Plus crowd out there asking, how does a new one-man SEO company market itself for new businesses? I've helped local business. I've signed up for meetup groups. I realize that I have skills that should be working more than they are. How does a one-guy operation use your skills
I will answer this question because I was a one-man operation a few years ago, and I'll tell you what has worked the very, very best. Speaking and blogging. Hands down, those two have been the very best drivers of new revenue. And in the beginning, when I started speaking, I did free speaking engagements, and I went to organizations where the people that we wanted to work with went, so trade shows, industry organizations, and I spoke for free. And as I built my resume from a speaking perspective, then I started to charge $500 a month, or $500 a speaking engagement, and then I upped it again, and then I upped it again, and I upped it again, and then when Marketing in the Round came out last year, I was able to increase my speaking fee again. So not only does it drive a ton of revenue because you're bringing in new clients when you speak, but you also eventually get paid to speak, and so you have two different revenue sources. And the other one is the blog. The blog SpinSucks has really created a huge reputation for us, and in some cases the reputation is bigger than the organization, which is a big challenge for us. I keep saying to my team, okay, how do we monetize this? But yeah, about 40% of our new clients come from reading the blog. So it's been an 8-year process. It's not something that has happened overnight. You're not going to start generating revenue tomorrow. But I will tell you that I started an email drip campaign about 3 months ago with an organization that I speak to quite often, probably once or twice a month. And anybody that attends those workshops that I give, they go into this drip campaign, and I started about 3 months ago, and we have 4 new clients from that already. So because I spoke to their group, and then they continue to have me top of mind, they say, oh shoot, we got to hire these guys. So it's a bit of an integration, and it's kind of a trial and error, but those are probably the best ways, without you having to call for dollars or go to networking events every night.
Right. Yeah, no, that's, one of the things I've told some clients that wanted to jump into the competition, whether they were lawyers, whether they were florists, make yourself an authority.
Yep.
Whether you're doing it via blogging, whether you're going to meetups,
yep.
Or you do a YouTube video and you talk about your specialty.
Yep.
You cannot be shy,
No.
and with transparency, and with that potential given to you, whether it's by your own fortitude, whether it's Google, whether you hire someone, whoever, use that tool. And one of them is getting out there and meeting people. I found those have been some of my best references. conferences, meetups.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's something to be said for putting your nose to the grindstone and going out there and getting the business rather than, you know, dialing for dollars, which I hate. I really hate. Do you hear that, people? I hate being solicited on the phone.
Hey, I'm with you.
Do not. I mean,
I don't like to do it either.
you know, and they know my name, they know the company, because guess what? My number and the company is online, so that's going to happen. You know, hey, Gabriella, this is John from XYZ. Who is XYZ? Do you have a few minutes to talk? No, I do.
No, I don't.
And if I did, I still wouldn't.
Right. So, so anyway, I think we had another question, but I don't think it's a relevant question. It looked like a yucky,
nothing whatsoever to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I'm like, Anyway, John Bass said, thank you so much, Gini. So apparently you've answered that question for him.
You're
Johnny
welcome.
Bass.
Bass. We're coming almost to a close. We had grabbed Miss... well, you know, we've got a lot to cover. But there may be some other questions here in the room, too. Oh, yeah. No? Here we go. In general, we do have another question from Melanie Hall. In general, do audiences, do you know Melanie? Hi, Melanie. In general, do audiences like to see monetized blogs? With the attitudes against being interrupted by ads, is monetization, a turnoff? Good question.
It's a great question, and boy, I tell you what, we've been testing all sorts of things. I put a stake in the ground, and I said SpinSucks absolutely and positively will never have ads, because I don't like that interruption of, you know, I mean, you go to a blog where you want to get great content, and all of a sudden you're interrupted by that kind of stuff, you know, pop-ups and things like that. So I put a stake in the ground and said that will never happen. That said, we're doing things like sponsorships on our webinars, sponsorships of ebooks, you know, things like that, so we can continue to offer the content for free, but, you know, still get paid for the time and expense that it takes to create that kind of stuff. I'm doing a keynote at Content Jam in the morning, and one of the things I talk about is native advertising, and I think there's some really interesting things that are happening from a native advertising and sponsored content perspective that doesn't interrupt the experience. It actually enhances the user experience. So if you can find ways to do that and monetize your content where it doesn't interrupt the experience, you know, I think there's some really interesting things that are happening. Devour, DEVOUR.com, has videos, and it's, you know, it's very linear and block-like, which is very pleasing to me. I like linear things. And you'll have 6 videos, and then you'll have one over here that's an ad, but it looks exactly the same thing. It says ad on it. So you can decide whether or not you're going to click on it, but it looks exactly like the rest of the site, so it doesn't interrupt that experience. So I think there's some interesting things that are happening there from a monetization standpoint, but yeah, I mean, we're still trying to figure it out as well.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. It answered the question in my point of view, but I did want Gini to expound a little more about native advertising, just for people that don't understand what you mean by that.
So what it is if you go to a site and there are, BuzzFeed's a great example of this. If, let's say you go to BuzzFeed and you're on their homepage and there's 20 stories on the homepage, of those 20 stories, 2 of them might be sponsored. And you'll see the link in the meta description just like you do on all the others, but at the bottom it'll say sponsored by StarKist or sponsored by SpinSucks or whatever it happens to be. So that piece of content is being paid by that organization. So it all looks the same as everything else. You just have that little sponsored by or paid for by. It's the old advertorials, you know, where when you're flipping through a magazine and it says this is an ad, even though it looks just like the content of the magazine, it was still paid for. So it says, you know, this was paid for by such and such.
Okay.
So which, this is not a question that we had asked, but I wanted to ask you because it's been the buzz with everyone. How do you feel about Google's search results, including people's faces, pluses, likes. That just came up, what, a couple of days ago?
Yeah, I think it was a few days ago.
Yeah. What kind of impact, good or bad, is that going to have on PR and branding? And because I've heard both sides, and I'm just curious.
I think it's fantastic. There was a study that showed, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was a pretty high percentage that showed when a person's face is associated. You know, if it's somebody that's in your network of friends and their face appears next to it, there's some high percentage that you're more likely to click on it than if it doesn't. So I think it's great. I think it's fantastic.
I do too. So it begs to the point that make sure you have people that you really trust in your circles, and not just add people to add them, right?
Yeah.
So we do have one last question, and the last question is: what is your favorite thing to talk about besides the beast?
Besides the beast, I'm surprised he's laying right here. I'm surprised he hasn't interrupted us. Well, you know, I'm a cyclist. I ride about between 250 and 300 miles a week. That's where I do all my thinking. I'm a big reader. I love fiction particularly. Food, I love to eat because I ride so much. Wine, I like to talk about wine.
Guys, do you have any questions, Laura, Wiz, Doc, before we let this young lady go?
Not me, but it was fantastic.
Wiz, nothing? Doc, do you want to close us off?
Sure. Well, Gini, you know, I think, would I be off base to say that, you know, public relations, online or offline, is still based on the same general concept. You're trying to build credibility, reputation, awareness. In just the digital world, there are new channels. Okay.
Yep.
So I think sometimes that's what some people, about a lot of things, not just PR, they seem to lose track of the fact that online world is not a new marketing game. It's not a new PR game.
Right.
It's just new channels and new tools. But and a lot more information than was often readily available offline. You know, a lot of tracking and some metrics that are fantastic. But the concept remains the same. Marketing is the same.
Yep.
Public relations is the same. Customer service is the same.
Yes.
You know, the customer-supplier relationship doesn't change whether you're talking through a door, a window, a screen, or a telephone.
Right.
They're still looking for someone to service them and look out for their interest. So the fact that you're doing it through a monitor really doesn't change things.
I totally 100% agree. You are correct.
Well, we really enjoyed it, as always. We appreciate it tremendously. And
my pleasure. My pleasure.
It's been educational. I think that, you know, I personally don't have a lot of experience in the PR side. I've been in publishing for a number of years before I started working online, but not in PR. And it's a different world. You know, it is marketing in a sense,
yes,
but it's also quite different in several senses too. So it's been educational and it's been entertaining, and I'm really pleased to, on a personal level, I'm pleased to have finally had a chance to meet you.
You too.
We thank you, and maybe we'll get a chance to do this again sometime.
Okay, thanks for having me.
To the rest of you guys, Laura, Wissam, we appreciate you showing up. I apologize to anybody that's out there watching. Apparently, my watching Ronnie Bincer's hangout the other day, teaching you how to set up and manage events, my attention span must have been lacking because I totally lost it in trying to actually turn the event on. I ended up having to start a new hangout. That's why I posted a new link out there. But we'll get it right. I may have to corner Ronnie and pick his brain some more.